Welcome to the bitcoin++ Oxford debate series. I am Lucas Ferreira, Executive Director of Intune, a nonprofit funding developers and also like educating developers to work in Bitcoin open source in Brazil. I'm the title sponsor for the bitcoin++ Exploits edition here in Florianopolis, and I'll be the host for this Oxford debate the bitcoin++ Oxford debate series. And today our motion is rollups are essential for Bitcoin to scale. So the motion is rollups are essential for Bitcoin to scale. Arguing for the motion, we have Jose Starpoli from Alpen Labs implementing rollups in Bitcoin. And arguing against the motion, we have Matthew Vuk from Second, who's working on ARC research. Before we begin, I want to just briefly explain to you how the Oxford-style debate format works. So first, we'll have each side will have 5 minutes for opening statements, and then we'll have a directed Q&A discussion that will take about 30 minutes, and then 5 minutes for each for closing statements. And then the audience will vote before and after the debate. So you will vote twice, once before the debate and one after the debate. The winner is not simply who gets the most votes, because you're not exactly voting for like who's the winner. You're voting for against or for the motion. And then the winner is whoever shifts most of the votes. So like if more people started thinking they were in favor or against the motion, and then more people change their minds, that's how you find the winner. So as you listen, pay close attention to the keyword in the motion, which is essential, because that means the question is not whether rollups are interesting or promising, but whether Bitcoin fundamentally needs rollups in order to scale. So here you can see a QR code where you can start voting, and then once everyone voted, we can start the debate. I think while you vote, we can briefly talk about like what exactly are you voting for or against. So rollups are a proposed way to scale Bitcoin, which uses Bitcoin only for the final settlement and for security, but all the transactions in the rollup model are bundled together off-chain in a compressed way, and this it's a compressed summary plus proof, and then only the verification is done on-chain. Has everyone voted? How many votes did you get?
Each side, give them 20 seconds to introduce who they are.
Oh yeah, sure. So 20 seconds for Jose and Matthew to introduce themselves, and then we can start the debate.
Hi everyone, I'm Jose Starpoli. I work at Alpen Labs. We are building state-of-the-art ZK rollup on top of Bitcoin, and excited for the debate.
Matthew.
Hello everyone, my name is Matthew Vuk. I work at Second on the ARC protocol. Our iteration of the ARC protocol is really focused on Bitcoin for payments. We don't focus on assets, and I strongly believe that systems like ARC and Lightning are very sufficient and essential for Bitcoin scaling.
So just a reminder of the format, each of them will have 5 minutes to like defend their position. Pay attention to their defense, because then we have 30 minutes of directed Q&A where I will ask them some questions, they will ask each other some questions, but you also have the opportunity to ask your questions. And then they have 5 minutes each for closing statements. After that, we vote again, and that's when we decide who won the debate by measuring who changed more people's vote. We can start now with Jose, who's going to be defending the affirmative position for rollups are essential, and pay attention to essential again, for Bitcoin to scale. You're counting the time, right?
It's right here in front
Okay.
of you, so
Go ahead, Jose.
Hi, can everyone hear me? All right. So when you hear the word scaling, most people immediately picture a single metric: transactions per second, cheaper fees, faster payment, more throughput. That's not the debate I'm here to win. Because Bitcoin doesn't thrive and survive by becoming a slightly better Visa. Bitcoin survives by remaining Bitcoin, decentralized, censorship resistant, and incredibly neutral money, even as the world builds finance on top of it. So tonight, I want to redefine emotion in a way that actually matters. Rollups are essential for Bitcoin scaling because Bitcoin needs to scale sovereign, not just payments. Here's a problem we all see but don't always say out loud. The economic energy around Bitcoin has outgrown what the base layer can comfortably host. People want to borrow against BTC, earn yield, trade, hedge, build stablecoins, run markets, automate agreements. Basically the entire financial stack. Where does most of that happen today? Not on Bitcoin, and not in a sovereign way. It happens through custodians, centralized exchanges, rapid representations, permission lending desks, black box yield products. In other words, the same fragile, censorable, seizure-prone architecture that Bitcoin was designed to root around. That's a threat, not because it's impure, because it's systemic. When the financial gravity of Bitcoin migrates to custodial systems, Bitcoin becomes a settlement asset for someone else's empire. The center of power moves away from the protocol and towards intermediaries. You get gatekeepers, surveillance, political capture, hypothecation, and eventually a familiar story. You can use Bitcoin as long as you behave. That's not scaling. That's domestication. A rollup is not let's cram more into blocks. It's let's move computation off-chain while keeping verifiability on-chain. It's a scaling strategy that preserves decentralization because it doesn't demand that every node executes everything. It preserves censorship resistance because users can still rely on a public, rule-bound settlement layer. And when designed properly, it reduces the need for trust in intermediaries. In plain terms, rollups let Bitcoin remain minimal and uncompromising while still enabling a broader economy to exist on top of it without giving away the keys. Now, my opponents may say, we don't need rollups. Lightning and Arc exist. I respect Lightning and Arc. It's elegant for payments, but it does not solve the broader problem I'm naming: complex financial activity, programmable markets, generalized applications, and scalable state. We should not confuse a payment channel network with a platform for an entire financial system. That's why the rollup model matters. It aims to minimize trust while maximizing utility, especially when combined with bridges that don't rely on a single custodian. We can keep Bitcoin as the anchor of truth while enable a sovereign, decentralized financial layer above it. That's what scaling should mean. So when you vote tonight, don't ask, can Bitcoin do 10,000 transactions per second? Ask more important question. Can Bitcoin support the world's demand for Bitcoin-based finance without becoming dependent on custodians and gatekeepers? If the answer is yes, then you need a mechanism that scales computation and applications while preserving Bitcoin's settlement integrity and decentralization. That mechanism is rollups. Rollups are essential for Bitcoin scaling, not because we want Bitcoin to do more, but because we want Bitcoin to remain Bitcoin while the world builds on it. Thank you.
And now, against the motion, we have Matthew Vuk.
My opponent believes that rollups are essential to scaling Bitcoin. That means you cannot scale Bitcoin without rollups. And I think he's wrong. I believe his claim is false, and I believe that we can scale Bitcoin using systems such as on-chain payments, Lightning, and Arc. I begin this debate by defining what Bitcoin scaling is, that is, increasing the network's capacity to handle users and transactions without compromising on decentralization, security, and censorship resistance. Layer 2 systems like Lightning and Arc are native to Bitcoin and involve broadcasting real on-chain transactions. These systems use pre-signed transactions and offer unilateral exits. Users can safely exit these systems with their funds without needing to trust any counterparty to not rug them. Peter Todd did a 2024 analysis that shows the Lightning Network could onboard over 1 billion new channels per year. This is with technology that already exists on the Lightning Network. The bottleneck to Bitcoin scaling is not that we are missing rollups, which aren't even that effective for scaling payments. We already have the technology, and new systems of computation are not essential. Today, we are at a gathering of an exploits conference, and the most important thing to think about here is when an exploit happens, what goes wrong, and what are the consequences. If you have a Lightning channel open and your counterparty misbehaves, you can broadcast your pre-signed transaction and exit with your funds. With Arc, you can also perform a unilateral exit and exit the system if the server goes offline. On-chain, Lightning, and Arc all neatly compose with one another. They work together, and on-chain is absolute finality. Each layer preserves the essential property of Bitcoin as money. Bridges tell us a very different story. When you are using bridges and rollups, you are not even really using Bitcoin itself at all. You are not holding a pre-signed Bitcoin transaction. You literally have to trust. Rollups require bridges, and bridges are the #1 most exploited and attacked infrastructure in all of Bitcoin and crypto. Billions and billions of dollars have been drained from bridge hacks. Bridges pool all users' funds together, and then attackers can steal money from many users at once. Are we supposed to just trust the developers that the previous bridge builders were wrong, but now they have perfected and fixed the system? These systems are not native to Bitcoin at all, and they are very experimental. I concede that these systems are good at computation for bringing crypto and Ethereum-style applications to Bitcoin. You can make DeFi applications, lending protocols, and so on, but that is not the essential part. It is not the essential property of Bitcoin, which is payments. These systems are full of immoral, zero-sum games and scams, and there is no evidence that they will create any type of sustained fee market to help Bitcoin security budgets. Rollups and bridge BitVM type systems do not compose and play nicely with Lightning. They are something else. They are something different, and they neglect the work done in the last 10 years to build Lightning as a payment network. Finally, rollups are divisive. They divide the Bitcoin community and stir controversy. The path for scaling Bitcoin must be something that the community has consensus on. The community has consensus on using Lightning for payments. Lightning promotes unity, and rollups sow division. The launch of Citrea was very controversial, with armies of hateful Bitcoin maxis on social media attacking those who promote rollups and bridges. These people hate rollups. We cannot establish a vision of what is essential to scale Bitcoin by focusing on divisive issues. Scaling Bitcoin with on-chain, Lightning, and Arc for payments is essential. These systems are made for trustless payments, and that is the essence of Bitcoin.
Thank you, Jose. Thank you, Matthew. Now we have 30 minutes for an open debate between the two debaters. I want to start by asking Jose, what exactly are the new trust assumptions or complexity assumptions that Rollups introduced to Lightning, well, to Bitcoin compared to Lightning or Arc, and why are those acceptable to Bitcoin's threat model?
Well, first of all, Bitcoin Lightning is not native to Bitcoin. We did a whole soft fork just to have it, not breaking. So rollups without a soft fork we do have a one of n trust assumption. So as long as one operator is live and honest, the bridge is functional. And imagine if in the future a soft fork could even reduce that trusted assumption, trusted minimized assumption. So how it does work? It works that rollups, they are a sidechain, but from time to time they commit their state onto Bitcoin, onto the layer 1. So they inherit the security of Bitcoin, because once a certain time has passed, your transactions, the blocks, everything that has happened in the rollup are committed to the layer 1. So for you to do a reorg on the layer 2, the rollup, you will need to reorg Bitcoin, and good luck doing that. This is not the case with bridges like Liquid, who hasn't been drained or attacked or hasn't fall like a house of cards yet. But for example, in Liquid, it's quite trivial for you to do a reorg there. This is not the same in rollups, because for you to reorg the rollup, you need to reorg depending on the height Bitcoin blocks, and that is a really good security assumption.
Matthew, it seems like you're a little bit more concerned about the new trust assumptions that Rollups brings to Bitcoin. Like, what do you think, like, it's not acceptable in terms of new trust assumptions?
My commentary on the trust assumptions is that they are not essential for payments. I understand that it is a one of n model. I understand this, but all of the use cases and utilities which you're describing of them seem to be for things that are not payments. I'd be interested to hear from you. We go through this, you're giving up using a transaction itself. You're going off-chain. By your own admission, it is a side chain. Why is it that we need to do this? Why does this have to be on the roadmap for Bitcoin at all? I'm really interested to learn about that.
A reply or you ask a question? Okay. That's a great question. The world is moving their financial life on-chain. Other chains are already thriving, and Bitcoin could be left to the side. So Bitcoin can scale as a rapid token in Ethereum. Do you want that?
Well, I don't really agree with you that Bitcoin could be left to the side with the other chains. I think that this cycle has taught us that the people are leaving crypto and they're coming to Bitcoin. This is probably the first year, the last 2 years have been the first time that Bitcoin conferences are considerably larger than crypto conferences. I don't see an excess of demand for people to go into crypto networks and engage with all of these different financial tools. I think that we see a lot of utility for permissionless payments and transfers. We see a lot of demand for Bitcoin as digital gold, and we see Bitcoin dominance rising. We do not see Bitcoin beginning to fall behind to other systems like Solana, Ethereum, and then a necessity for us to pivot our roadmap to start to match them. I think that the market has decided that Bitcoin's core competency and essence as payments is the most valuable of all use cases in crypto.
Matthew, but like, what would you say if Bitcoin reaches global levels of demand and Lightning plus Arc are still struggling with liquidity or routing or UX at massive scale? What is the fallback path without rollups?
Well, I would make the argument that ARC could solve a lot of those liquidity issues, and I don't think that Jose has substantiated the claim that rollups are superior to ARC and Lightning for the purpose of payments and managing liquidity. If he could make that case, I would be open to accept it, but I don't believe that that is true. I believe that rollups exceed and work exceptionally well for crypto use cases, but not for payment ones.
So, Jose, while you explain why you think rollups can achieve what Matthew is saying, like actually scaling for payments, maybe you also want to address his other comment in his first defense, where he mentions that rollup development ignores all the advancements in Lightning and Arc, and how rollups are not really well composable with Lightning and Arc. Would you say that's true?
No, rollups are quite composable with Arc and Lightning. In fact, you could do atomic swaps in and out of Arc service providers or Lightning channels into rollups, and you can also peg out using atomic swap into Arc and Lightning as well. Now, I don't know how a good proxy is crypto conference participation as more demand for Bitcoin or other blockchains. I would question that, but the whole financial markets, they are moving on chain, and also we do have a bunch of successful use cases that we are seeing across the pond in other ecosystems that they could be a really interesting option in Bitcoin in a trust minimized way with Bitcoin as a native token without any pre-mine or any concentration of pre-issued tokens. Now, it is already happening. People are using Bitcoin in other layers as a rapid asset. And we can bring this to Bitcoin in a decentralized, trust minimized way with rollups. Now, I'm not going to argue any one of you that rollups, they will scale payments more than Arc or Lightning. But they can make payments and transfer of money way more private. Rollups can support something like shielded CSV or shielded pools. There are other protocols that can make payments
Jose, I think
private.
your answer is kind of like taking us in a direction where I feel like there's one core disagreement here that doesn't necessarily, like, I think we need to go back to the motion and maybe understand better what are we trying to scale, because it feels like Matthew is fully focused on scaling payments, and that means maybe like transaction throughput, and you're also concerned about bringing other features or other financial activity and other different things to Bitcoin. So maybe Matthew, you want to state that disagreement in terms of like what exactly are you trying to scale and what exactly you disagree that rollups are essential for?
Yeah, I definitely believe that Bitcoin scaling is about scaling payments. That's what we want to keep decentralized. That's what we want to keep permissionless. I believe the essence of Bitcoin is to be used as money for making transactions and not to be an application platform. I hear Jose talking about some type of demand that's coming, which he says that institutions or other financial markets want to see computation on Bitcoin, but I haven't seen any examples of that personally. I think that the biggest institutional adopters are examples like MicroStrategy, who want a HODL. I think we see ETFs, but I don't see existing banks come and say, we want to take our existing banking infrastructure and be able to reproduce that on Bitcoin. I've never seen any institutions do that. If you could make the case that this was absolutely an essential way for Bitcoin to succeed, we could begin to redefine what it means for something to be essential in Bitcoin. But I'm a firm believer that it is the irreversible finalized payment.
I don't think scaling is only payments. I think this is a myopic.
Maybe you want to say what are the things you see in other chains that you feel are important that we should bring to Bitcoin?
Yeah, we are scaling users, we are scaling use cases, we are scaling privacy, we are scaling institutions in a decentralized and trust minimized way. Who here has used a stablecoin? Good luck doing that in Bitcoin. So half of the audience already uses something that Bitcoin cannot offer natively, and not even Arc or Lightning as well.
I want to give the opportunity
in a trust minimized way.
I want to give the opportunity for the audience to ask some questions, but before we do that, I just want to know, like, for each of you, maybe 30 seconds, what's the strongest argument from your opponent that you think Bitcoiners should take seriously, and where do you still disagree?
I think the strongest argument that my opponent is making is that that this will generate demand for Bitcoin, that people are waiting for more additional applications to come to Bitcoin, but I don't believe that rollups are the only way to do that. He's making the reference of, oh, if you want to do stable coins, then rollups are the way. But we have meta protocols. I know that the other ARC that I'm not affiliated with wants to do stable coins in ARC. There's other ways to do assets on Bitcoin. It's not rollups or nothing. They're not essential in order to have assets on Bitcoin.
Because you don't need to address his comment, but I just want you to tell like what's his argument that you feel is appealing and should be taken seriously.
His argument is that scaling only concerns payments, that Bitcoin is only sending payments around, that you cannot use your Bitcoin to do more with your financial life, and that whenever we think about scaling, we should think about transactions per second, lower fees, and high throughput.
Do we have questions from the audience?
Thank you. Thank you.
No.
No, you need to turn it on. Yeah.
Yeah, we can hear now.
Okay. This question for Storopoli. You said good luck to use stable coins on the Bitcoin. So I wanted to hear what do you think about the Taproot assets from Lightning?
I don't have a much formal opinion on Taproot assets. I don't know if it is truly trustless or trust minimized. I have not yet dived into Taproot assets. I don't know. But my hunch is that it is still trusted and centralized.
Can you hear me? All right. So my question is kind of for both of you. I think at the beginning there was kind of a brush over around what is the like trust assumption amongst both. I think I sat in with a discussion with Steven, and it was kind of like when you're in an ARC, there's like one server, and you kind of trust this one server to be good. So like they need to be able to sweep your funds because they need the liquidity. So you kind of have to trust this one server that they won't ever spend your funds and they won't ever do anything bad. Whereas on scaling in this way, it's a one of n. So there can be many participants, and then just one of them has to be honest at any time. So how would you like reconcile that trust assumption in terms of scaling Bitcoin?
I'd like to clarify about the trust model with ARC. It is true that there is some trust involved with the server in some scenarios. Like you're using the state chain model if you're doing an intra-ARC payment. But once your payment is included in a round, that payment is yours forever. So if the server acts maliciously or goes offline, you are still always able to perform a unilateral exit out of the system. I think that that's very different from a bridge leaking a pool of all users' funds. I think that there's a big difference in the stakes involved in each situation between scaling with ARC and Lightning as opposed to these bridges, which have a lot of historical examples of failures, and you have all this Bitcoin pooled in one place, and one person can take out the Bitcoin of many users. ARC, I will be transparent that with an ARC server, if you are in the state chain model for an intra-ARC payment, an ARC server could collude with a previous sender in some niche edge case scenarios, but having a payment a single payment reversed, or having to perform a unilateral exit back on chain is very different from everybody losing all their money from a bridge exploit. The consequences are dramatically different between the platforms.
Do you have other questions? Okay, George?
Yeah, so an important property of Bitcoin, of course, is that it's trustless, and that payments is an example of there's no other party involved in them. But stablecoins, as an example, there is a third party, right? There's the stablecoin issuer. So even if you make it perfectly safe on Bitcoin, there's still that counterparty. Is there an example in the rollup world of an application that does not have this counterparty problem? Because I find the stablecoin example less convincing because it does have an ultimate.
That's a great question. Thank you. Yes. While you do have the possibility of having trusted, centralized stablecoin issues, you also have what we call algorithmic stablecoins, where the stablecoin it is controlled by an algorithm. It's controlled by a smart contract, where it is transparent, could be audited, could be formally verified as well, and users they add liquidity by adding BTC through the stablecoin pool, and the pool will emit stablecoins based on that liquidity. You do have a couple of points of failures, but you can always scale more those points of failure. So you could have more than one oracle to determine what is the price of Bitcoin against dollar or euros. You could also have more pools distributed. So if one pool has a major flow, not all the liquidity goes down. But yeah, the users on both sides they add the liquidity, but they also get the stable coins back. So there is no centralized stablecoin issuers. This is already available in other ecosystems, and it is quite nascent, like new, but it has been proven from the last 3 years that this can work, and we can bring those into the rollup.
Yeah.
I think that that's a great explanation about stablecoins, and you get to talk about algorithmic stablecoins, but I don't believe that algorithmic stablecoins are essential for Bitcoin scaling. Is that a belief that you hold, that they are?
A belief that I hold is that novel use cases, novel users are central to Bitcoin scaling, not just payments. And stablecoins is one of those. A very compelling one, but not the only one.
I thought, just going back to the wrapped Bitcoin question, I thought that was a quite interesting point. Over the last, I think, year and a half, one of the most overwhelming trends has been Bitcoin moving from individuals to institutions, and that wrapped Bitcoin supply, I just looked it up, it's like 30 to 50 times as much as is on Lightning and Liquid and payments focused L2s. So I would be curious to hear from both of you how you think that. Do you see that as well? For Jose, how you think that a significant amount of that can be brought to Bitcoin-based rollups, and for Matthew, how you either see that kind of ending or layer twos. Do you see why do you think it's that big at the moment if Bitcoin is most useful for payments?
That's a great fact. Thanks for bringing that up. Yes, there is a huge amounts of rapid Bitcoin locked in other protocols that are not on Bitcoin, other bridges, layers, blockchains, whatever you want to call it, then on Liquid and Lightning combined 30x. This is this only shows that there is a lot of demand for you to use Bitcoin in novel use cases for novel users, and they are not being addressed in Bitcoin. They have to go outside of the Bitcoin ecosystem. Now, I think that close to 80 or 90% of those rapid tokens could be brought into successful rollup on Bitcoin.
Let's hear from Matthew.
I think that the interest of what people want to do with those wrapped Bitcoins is not the types of things they would use to transact on Bitcoin. I don't think people are using these wrapped Bitcoin in the crypto world because they want to use it to transact there. I think that they want to use them in these other types of games. I'm not convinced that that is long term. I think that that has peaked in the past, and I think that that comes and goes, but sovereign usage of Bitcoin for payments is a long-term sustainable usage for Bitcoin. we shouldn't be orienting ourselves towards all of these other different use cases which have a flash in the pan moment of excitement, like even meta protocols and ordinals have, and then it shifts and goes away. We can't be chasing those highs. We have to focus on the sovereign adoption for payments.
Do you feel like things like loans or lending can be done without rollups, or you just don't think that lending is even a necessity in the Bitcoin network?
I don't think that that's a necessity for Bitcoin. I don't think that that's essential. I think that there could be a place for that. I don't deny that this could coexist with Bitcoin along with payments, but when we're making changes to the protocol, when we're trying to make a vision of the path forward must be permissionless payments.
So you're gonna tell a Bitcoiner that only has Bitcoin that he cannot pay, he cannot have like pay his mortgage with Bitcoin, or he cannot get a BTC backed loan so that he can cover some expenses without selling his Bitcoin, taking a capital gains hit on top of that, or even selling in a bad bear market and getting like huge losses.
Those are valid use cases, but I don't think that all of those systems you're describing have to become Bitcoin native. I don't think that they have to all be touching the protocol.
So they will go to centralized custodians that can rug pull them and a bunch of other Bitcoiners at any time.
People send payments like this. If they send a payment to someone, they can't get it back even on Bitcoin. If I send somebody money with Bitcoin, that transaction is final. The money's not coming back. If I'm making a mortgage payment, it's the same trust model as buying a coffee at the store.
So I think the main disagreement here is not necessarily if rollups are interesting or if they can bring new use cases and new interesting things to Bitcoin, but if Bitcoin is necessarily only successful or scalable with rollups. Question from Stu?
So going on order, you're next,
Oh.
but there's one here.
Hey, so the literal motion is rollups are essential, and when we hear about that, it's not exactly that, but feels like that we are hearing also that maybe Lightning plus Arc is enough, and I would love to know what you think about this, if you think it's enough. And also another related question is that there's sometimes it also looks like we are debating not exactly rollups but bridges, and there are other things that I don't know if you would say RGB is a rollup or a sidechain. I don't know, but I believe that I think it uses bridges, and but they're not rollups. So I would like to know from you if, like, because I don't think like rollups are essential, but also I don't think Lightning and Arc is enough, and I want to know a little bit more about you about other kinds of payments and systems.
Yeah. The one thing I would ask back to you is, do you believe that assets are what's missing on Bitcoin? If you're going to RGB, then your ultimate goal, I believe, is not just to make Bitcoin payments for transactions. That is something else. I believe that these are valid use cases. People can do all sorts of different computational tasks on Bitcoin, but once we start to define the path forward for scaling to include all of these different non-Bitcoin assets, then I think that we are starting to get off track.
Jose, you don't need necessarily to address like specific protocols, but do you feel like there's no other option for bringing out the things that you want to bring with rollups?
I mean, we could do all of this in a side system. We could do all of this in a trust me, bro, majority multi-sig bridge. But rollups bring a lot of security because, as I explained, for you to reorg a rollup like a side system, you need to reorg layer 1. Now, we have a new generation of bridges that are called BTVM-based bridges, and they are not majority multisig, they are one of n trust assumptions. So a rollup is a very good side system that is very secure, but also you need to pair that up with a very good, secure, state-of-the-art bridge with very fancy and very good protocols.
Stu.
Hi. So right now Bitcoin blocks are full, but transaction fees are probably the lowest they've ever been. Like no one's using Bitcoin on chain. 50% of transactions are inscriptions, which you could argue are roll-ups maybe. They put data on chain and they're indexed off chain. So the debate is, are roll-ups essential? So are roll-ups essential to pay the miners in 15 years or so when the block subsidy is gone and there's no fees to secure the network?
Matthew?
I think that meta protocols, you mentioned ordinals specifically, these cause a lot of fee spikes on Bitcoin. You have periods of a lot of excitement and a lot of hype where a lot of people are transacting and fees go up, but then they come and go and people go to the next thing. We can't be oriented in that direction. We have to focus on long-term sovereign adoption. Long term, do you think that we should be inviting these fee spikes? Do you think that fee spikes is a sustainable model for fee markets?
What do you feel like what can rollups contribute to the fee market? And
yes, rollups pretty much they have a somewhat stable demand. So the data that they will have to inscribe on chain is going to be stable as well. You have less fee spikes, but I do think that you have more long-term security with minor fees, especially now that every halving the block subsidy goes down by half, and 2140 will come eventually that we don't have any block subsidy, and how are the miners will secure the network. So rollups can help long-term with that.
Aren't rollups taking a lot of the mining, a lot of the fees that users are paying to the rollup servers or coordinators instead of the miners?
No, because most of the fees in rollups, they will come from the data availability, what we call the cost of publishing that data on Bitcoin. And also, most of the activity on rollups will be not the ones that are already solved by other L2s like Arc or Lightning. So they will bring like novel use cases, novel activity to Bitcoin that will drive or will foment minor fees and minor security on layer 1.
Thank you. Last question from the audience.
I have one here. So basically what I'm understanding is that they're both different things. Okay, they're both different things, and the full motion here is like, are rollups essential? However, I do have one question, 2 questions actually. Exactly what are rollups? Because I have been reading about rollups, and this word is like thrown away like a lot, but I still don't understand exactly what constitutes a rollup. And another thing directly to that is that you said that they commit data to the chain, right? So they use block space to commit something that they're going to analyze on their bridges, operators, or something like that, or on the nodes itself. In this way, I wanted to know like how big does this commitment gets? And I know there are being improvements. And apart from that, if that can like introduce
we
friction.
don't have much time. Let's see what Jose has to
introduce
answer.
friction regarding to this block space.
Real quick, rollup is a side system or a side chain. Yes, a side chain that has its own rules, but somehow inherits consensus from L1, from the layer 1 that sits on top of. It periodically, I don't know, every 6 blocks, every 10 blocks, every 2 hours, it will get the state diff, the difference of state from the last checkpoint to the new one, and it will grab the whole data that you need to recreate the state, the diff, compress it as much as possible, and then send it to the layer 1. This is because for you to reorg a rollup, you need to reorg L1 after certain depth, and also because if the rollups goes belly up disappears, you can
Do you have something
recreate
to add,
everything
Matthew?
from layer 1 by reading the diffs.
The thing I really have to add that I would come actually is from the previous question, that the idea of rollups creating a long-term fee market on Bitcoin is a forward-looking statement. We only have Citrea online for a short period of time, and we can see the amount of fees that they've generated. Your platform is not online yet. We cannot make claims about how that will help generate fees a decade from now.
You can address that question in your closing statements. We now have 5 minutes each. Jose, you're first.
So I hope that tonight you have seen that scaling is not only about payments, that we do have to scale to other users, to other use cases, to institutions, to the world. And if Bitcoin wants to remain the #1 asset, decentralized asset in the world, it needs to scale to those users, it needs to scale to those institutions, it needs to scale to those use cases. If we don't do this in a trust minimized or trustless, decentralized, sovereign manner, it will go through custodians. We'll see more Terra Lunas, we'll see more FTX, we'll see more of those custodians going under. Now, if you want to buy a car, buy a house, but you don't want to sell your Bitcoin because you believe Bitcoin holds its value way better than any other asset in the long term, or because if you sell your Bitcoin, you're going to get a huge capital gains fee or tax on you. Now, if you want to do that with Bitcoin, getting a loan, you are going to have to give custody of your Bitcoin right now to a custodian. Those services exist. And that custodian can go under, and good luck getting your Bitcoin back. Now, we could do this in a much better way using rollups. And when you vote tonight, think about what scaling means. Take a look at the world around us. We just saw that the total value locket of rapid BTC assets in other chains, other protocols that are non-Bitcoin native or that doesn't even communicate with Bitcoin, it's 30x the total value locket in Liquid or Lightning channels or even Arc. Arc and Lightning, they only serve for payments. There is the other Arc that my opponent said. I think this might be the only thing that we agree here. The other Arc, it's not good because they are tying execution to a glorified VM, a trusted execution environment, which is a centralized point of failure. And we all know how many hacks trusted execution environments have. You can Google or, I don't know, search for TEE fail, and you see a whole list of how those things fail. There was another thing that I was gonna address that I forgot.
The fee market. Is there an actual fee pressure from rollups? An actual fee contribution to Bitcoin?
Yes. So we did had a launch of a rollup. That's Citrea. I have no idea what happened. They have two operators. One of the operators is them. This is not how you bridge a one-event bridge. This is pretty much like a multi-sig majority, 50% of one of two, and they only have 10 BTC locket. So I have no idea how they did their launch. I'm really focused on my launch and what I believe it's best for Bitcoin. But imagine a bridge that you do have activity, that you do have 10, 15, 20 operators. Those operators, they are decentralized, distributed, and that you can get a mortgage, pay your mortgage, get a loan, use a stable coin without a centralized point of failure. This is the path forward with rollups. And for Bitcoin to scale, we need to not only scale payments. There are also good solutions for that, but we need to scale use cases and users and everything else in the best asset that was created by humankind, which is Bitcoin.
Matthew, you also have 5 minutes for your closing statements.
My opponent has been unable to substantiate the claim that rollups do a better job at scaling Bitcoin transactions than can be done with native systems like Lightning and Arc. What is missing is not a rollup, but organic demand and our ability to organize as developers. If Bitcoiners want to improve the state of the fee market, they must break into the mainstream and onboard, educate users into making Bitcoin payments with existing infrastructure powered by Lightning and on-chain payments. That is true adoption. Inviting crypto activity into Bitcoin and justifying it that it will make fees is not sustainable and destined for failure. It is not enough that rollups are unessential. It is actually even worse. They are a distraction. To say that they are essential is a distraction from all the work that went into the vision of scaling Bitcoin with Lightning. What were the past 10 years for? What was the point of SegWit and the block size wars? So that we could wait for trusted bridges to appear in 2026? This is not Satoshi's vision. They pull our attention away from what is proven to work and does not make a nice modular fit to extend the tooling which has come this far. To say bridges and rollups are the essence of Bitcoin is to discard the work that has already come. The belief that Bitcoin rollup technology is essential and will save Bitcoin, it is a fantasy. And it is the same fantasy that every bridge builder had before they got hacked and lost billions of dollars of users' funds. They believe that if we build a clever and complex system, users will come. But they don't, because technology does not create adoption. People create adoption. Bitcoin's future does not depend on building a better rollup. It depends on building a better movement with the payment tools we already have. We have on-chain payments that finalize in 10 minutes. We have Lightning for instant finality, and we have Arc to manage liquidity and scale to billions of users. Channel factories are on the way. Now we must organize, take action, and implement these systems. We don't need sequencers, challenge windows, or posting proofs. We need to use the tools we have already built and mobilize and head into battle. That is what is essential to the success of Bitcoin, not just as a payment technology, but as a movement of our personal and collective sovereignty.
Applauses again for both our debaters. Okay, so here's how it's gonna work. Okay, again. Okay, now I have it. So now you have the chance to vote again for the motion. You don't need to vote the same way you voted the first time. If you voted for yes, you can still vote for no now. If you voted for no, you can still vote for yes now. So the way we're gonna measure who's the winner of this debate is what's the percentage of the people who changed their minds during the debate based on the defenses that both our debaters had. So you have some time now to to vote. We had a very strong debate now with representatives of two great companies that are leading the way in the development of two different scaling paths to Bitcoin. One of them is more focused in scaling payments, as we've seen. The other feels like for us to scale Bitcoin, we need to bring some other use cases and some other capabilities to Bitcoin. Has everyone voted already? All good? Anyone else wants to vote? You're voting? Okay. We're gonna see the results appearing here when you all finish voting, and then we can crown the winner. All good? Everyone voted? Let's see who the winner was. Refresh.
On the right, or at the bottom, sorry. What? Scroll down. So the winner is against the motion.
The winner is against the motion. Congrats, Matthew.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.